Hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Estate Planning Podcast. We produce binge-worthy content for estate planning law firm owners by interviewing marketing experts, high-producing law firm owners, and professionals who work around death, legacy, and family dynamics. I am your host, Heath Rost, and founder of The Predictable Estate Planner. Today, I'm with Jeff Hampton, Esquire of YouTube Rainmakers, who has previously built and sold 2 law firms of his own, and he's generated over $2 million in revenue from a single YouTube video. Now he helps lawyers market themselves effectively through his chosen channel of YouTube. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Heath. It's good to be here, man.
Awesome. So now we like these interviews to be inspiring to all of our listeners. So today we really just want to hear your story with your agency, Jeff. So why don't we start with kind of the very beginning? Tell us about some of that early success that you had with your own law firms, and then we'll kind of fast forward to how you're helping law firm owners today. So let's start. What are some of those early successes that you had?
Yeah, so I don't always show this, but this is always behind me. This right here is a silver play button, basically, from YouTube, where when you hit 100,000 subscribers on your channel, they send you one of these. The newer versions of these are smaller now, but when I first started YouTube, I was like, can I even imagine that I'd ever get to 100,000 subscribers? And now I'm at just shy under 575,000 subscribers on my primary channel. And I should be getting another one of these here in the next year or so. That's gold. It's a gold play button for 1 million subscribers or more. And so as I continue to grow, and that's the goal as I move in that direction, I go all the way back to like end of 2020, right? During the pandemic. And so early successes, why did I even do this? As a law firm owner, one of the things I did is I looked out and I saw that attorneys were all trying to basically gain business the same way. They were spending a ton of money on Google pay-per-click ads. They were spending a lot of money trying to rank for search, just basic, organic search through YouTube, and spending a ridiculous amount of money with lawyer marketing companies and getting just very basic results. I mean, not real spectacular results. And it's so saturated. And you see attorney commercials everywhere. The last thing the world needs is another attorney commercial, or a billboard. And so when I started looking, I realized I saw over here, I had about 80 competitors in North Texas that were all doing it the same way. And that's who I was competing against. And then I noticed over here, and I say Google, I say the basic pay-per-click ad approach and local service ads. Then I looked over here at YouTube and learned that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And not only was it the second largest search engine in the world, but I literally had only 2 other attorneys that were posting any content about what they do in my field on YouTube. And what they were posting was terrible. So I looked at it and I said, okay, wait a minute. Second largest search engine, almost nobody's doing this. Let's start creating content, and I knew the search game. Let's start figuring out how to rank for search. And so for me, the early wins, I started off by looking at my practice areas. I always tell people to do what we call the 80-20, right? You sit down and say, what are the 20% of my practice areas making me 80% of my revenue? Whatever those are, I am now going to sit down and I'm going to create practice area videos. I'm going to look right at the camera and I'm going to treat it like a consultation. And I'm going to look at it and I'm going to do something most lawyers don't do. Most attorneys gatekeep knowledge and they say you got to pay to get access. And what they don't realize they're doing is they're cutting off their opportunity to build trust. And so for me, I give away my secrets and the clients want to buy my implementation. Mm-hmm. So only a fool wants to represent themselves on a legal matter, right? And so from my perspective, if I give away a lot of this stuff and someone wants to DIY it, they were never going to be a good client for me anyway. That's not going to fit my client profile. They're not my ideal client. So instead, I give away a lot of this information. And then the more wealthier clients that I look to work with, they're like, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about. I can't even get this out of lawyers I've worked with in the past. Let me see what it takes to work with him. And when I did that, the early win from going from no subscribers, no presence whatsoever, I posted one video a day, one video a week. Each video, long form video, was a practice area based video. And after about 2 to 3 months of posting those practice area videos, and I didn't know what I was doing, by the way. I knew how to, I don't know what I know now, of course.
Right.
But at the time I was posting, and the next thing you know, I got a phone call from a guy in about 3-month time frame that said, I watched your YouTube video about aggravated assault in Texas, and my son's sitting in the jail right now, county jail. How do we get that no bill you talked about in the video? And so at that moment, I thought, okay, all right. And the average lifetime customer value on that type of offense is 10 grand.
Mhm.
And so he signed up, paid all in advance. I didn't even have to try to sell him, because what you find is when people watch your content on YouTube and you build trust there, they're warm leads. They're not coming in cold like you get from cold traffic. And so it was at that moment I realized I was going to double down, right? It's like, okay, this worked, and I didn't even have to put that much effort into it. And then what happens is it starts slow, and then it's all at once. Things start to take off between month 3 and month 4 and month 5. I went from only a few calls a week to 10 to 15 calls a week to now I'm up over 350 local calls a month, right? That's local, right? That come in because of the YouTube channel presence. And if I had to pay for that, the average cost for a call that you get through Google in my market is easily over $350, sometimes more than that. You can do the math on that, how much that would cost to get 350 local calls a month. And they're high intent. So that was an early win for me, is to realize very few people were doing this, second largest search engine in the world. And since then, things have ballooned up even more for YouTube. YouTube is way more relevant now than it was when I first started doing this at the end of 2020.
Yeah. So I hear you saying that they're really high intent. You got that first one, and then you just like, all right, I'm just going to keep, doing this, right? So you did it for four more months. The calls started increasing. Tell me more about these high intent leads, how you were able to get to that.
So here's the crazy part. If you go and look at the actual numbers, those that are under 40 actually use YouTube and TikTok for search more than they do Google now. And the reason why is because people don't want to read website content. They don't. And the reason why I'm saying that is they don't want to have to search through the SERP, right? The search engine results page. They don't want to have to go through all that if they can just get an answer right then and there. And so for me, what happened is when you look at this, when people search, classic example, I have 19,600 views on a video that's about aggravated assault, deadly weapon in Texas. 12,600 and I think 80 of them are search-based views that came from YouTube. And then over 1,100 of the views came from Google searches. So when I say high intent search, we know Google owns YouTube. So many times when you're doing Google searches, what we call long tail keyword searches, they will rank videos on those searches because it's an asset that Google owns. And then now AI searches, Google just announced this quarter, they announced that YouTube is one of the top assets to determine AI results on their results pages, but they're also ranking organic YouTube videos more and more in their AI results page in terms of how they define relevance. So no one's going to do a search for a practice area in law to be entertained. If people are searching for those areas and I can rank number 1 or near the top of the page with a colorful thumbnail and an engaging title, then that video I mentioned earlier has a 10% click-through rate. That means people are clicking on that when they see it, and then I'm over-delivering on the value that they receive, because most other attorneys only do like a 1 to 2 minute video, and it's really just bragging on themselves. And what I want to do is give away things they can take action on, which leads to every time they want to actually call in and talk to us.
Okay. So I want to come back to what you're saying about titles, right? Because obviously that is a big, it's a big reason that people are finding you on YouTube search and just now Google search, right?
Sure.
Before we get into that, I want to go to the practice areas, right? Practice areas that you kind of started with, and the practice areas that you're working with now. So personal injury, right? Obviously that was the first one. What are some other areas that you've worked in since then?
Yeah. So, I mean, I work with several attorneys, and I even have also one of my other law firms is a nationwide asset protection law firm. That law firm also does some estate planning, not a lot, but a little. And so we've done videos. A lot of estate planning lawyers make a lot of money on living trusts, revocable, non-revocable, or revocable and irrevocable trusts. A lot of basic estate planning type topics, like which is better, wills or trusts? Like which one should I do? How do I avoid probate court? those sort of broad topics, but yet very specific in terms of keywords, high volume searches. So what I'm saying is, here's what you do. And this is kind of a cheat sheet for lawyers. There's two. Let me first break this down for you. There's a couple of ways to win through YouTube videos. The first way is you sit down and you need to do a market analysis to see what is it in my area are people searching for that align with my services, right? And based on that, I want to prioritize creating videos that I'm going to get the broadest total addressable market for people who are looking for services like mine, right? And I'm going to give away value, not try to sell them anything. I'm just going to give away a lot of value and make sure that the video is what we call evergreen, which means I want this video to cover something that I know people are going to search for years, right? This is something people are going to always still need to trust. They're going to need to figure out their estate planning because everybody dies. So these are all things that we want to make sure that we're covering that people are searching for. Then the second thing you do, and almost nobody does this, the second thing you do is you take these videos and strategically use them on your website. Because most people get very low, most attorneys get extremely low conversions on their website with a big bounce rate. You put a video, a well done video above the fold on your website. I've seen as high as 30 to 40% increase in conversions. And I've seen bounce rates go from 90% to like 45, 50%, where you're going to have people actually dwelling on that page longer. And so when we talk about what to do first, the first thing I want to do is, where do you want to make more money? That's number one. What do you have a practice area right now that's kind of, it's your bread and butter? You need to create content around that. You then need to make sure you're optimizing it for search for YouTube, and then get that same video embedded on your website. And you're going to immediately see an ROI if you do it the right way.
Before we get back to the episode, I want to mention something quickly. If you own an estate planning law firm and want more qualified leads coming in every month without relying on consistent referrals or paid ads, this is exactly what I help attorneys do. Through blogging, SEO, and conversion-focused websites, I work with estate planning law firms who want consistent leads, better cases, and a practice that actually grows year after year. If that sounds like something you want, go to predictableestateplanner.com and schedule a strategy call with me. All right, let's get back to the episode. Just to kind of recap what you said there, evergreen content. So if these estate planning attorneys, right, because we are profit with estate planning, if they are thinking about what content do I want to create if I want to start my own YouTube channel, you suggest evergreen content, meaning things that people are searching frequently, and you're casting kind of the widest net with that, and that's the best route to go.
Yeah, I guess what I mean by that is, so for most areas of law, there are certain practice areas that are going to continue to be around for decades, right? And so if that's the case, there is a desire or demand for that's out there in the marketplace, that people are trying to consume content to know what to do.
Sure.
And so when we create that, when I say broad, it can be broad, but sometimes it can be also very specific. Like on YouTube videos, if you really want to rank well for search, if you're limited to a particular practice or a particular state that you practice in, then you want to make sure that you're detailing in the actual transcript or the script of what you're creating. It needs to be specific laws for your state. So if like you're in Texas, it needs to be Texas specific laws for how living trusts are set up, the right way to do this, because that's going to make a big difference. Even referencing statutes, case law in that state. These are things that we help attorneys do, because when you do that, Google Brain pulls that to create the transcript, and it says, hey, this is very relevant to Texas law and living trusts. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to rank way better than some guy who's just talking in generalities about a trust. And that becomes evergreen, because those statutes rarely change. And guess what? If they do, you do an update video. And that update video dovetails off of your previous video, which there you're capturing traffic and pushing them to the update. And so this is a way where I don't want to say it's all personality driven, but people like to work with who they like, right? And so if you can create some connection with someone in that process, kind of like what you do with blogs, like a lot of the blog writing is so important to have great blogs, but imagine doing a blog and then making some changes to the way that blog is written to become a transcript from a YouTube video. And now that same great, well-written blog also has a video that not only sits out on YouTube, but then it also acts as a video that could be attached to the blog to increase engagement and have people not only check out what's there, but then they also get to go down and read the rest of the blog. These are the kind of things when it's done that way, where you get way more traffic. And more importantly, you're capturing more of the traffic you're already receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to do this, what you do is, I guarantee a lot of the blogs you write for attorneys right now, I bet some of your blogs rank as some of the highest trafficked pages on their website.
Right.
And if that's the case, so attorneys, I tell them, start with where you're getting traffic already. Right? If you're already getting a lot of traffic, are you capturing it? What is what is the conversion rate on those pages? If they're low, let's put some video content of it on there above the fold. And then all of a sudden that blog page is like, it's generating a lot for you. You're getting a huge ROI on it.
Wow, Jeff, this is huge. This is huge. And our listeners appreciate what you just said so much. Go in and find out what are the blogs, what are the pages on your site that are already converting the best, right? Yeah. That means, hopping into your search console. If you don't have that set up yet, you need to get that set up. Sure. Hopping into your Google Analytics and looking, right, what are the pages that are getting the most conversions, and saying, okay, this blog is getting, 300 clicks every month. So people are finding it. That means it's valuable content. Google is showing it on search. That's right. So what if you took that blog and you created a video summarizing what you say in it? Because people are already finding it. That's your foot in the door. Your foot in the door is getting people on there, right? So how do we leverage the fact that we have that foot in the door better to get them to know, like, and trust us even more, right? Because it's just text on a page. And obviously photos are really engaging too, and that matters. But what if it was actually you, the attorney, speaking what you just shared?
Yeah.
Right. It's definitely something that artificial intelligence could never replicate, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And here's the best part about all this. There's just very few attorneys the ones that are doing this, they're doing it the lazy way. They're not really giving what they would give if they're talking to a potential client. They're not really laying out what they know. They feel like they have to hold something back. What I've learned is the more I give away, the more people are beating down my door to come work with us. Mm-hmm. Because, if I would share information about a strategy, somebody say, well, what if another attorney is going to rip you off and do those things? I'm not worried about what other people are doing. I can't, mm-hmm. That's not my concern. My concern is I'm putting out this content. It resonates. That's how now I went from just nothing to, between 15 to 20 million views a month on my YouTube channel. Because when you take that viewpoint is rare on the legal side, and you combine it with great blog writing like yourself and other pages that maybe are already getting some traffic on your website, you get mm-hmm. more from your website traffic. You're going to get more conversions. You're also going to get a lot more on YouTube. And then here's the other magic sauce. Take the best performing parts of that on YouTube, repurpose them into short form content on TikTok, Instagram, Meta, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts. Now you're omnipresent, so that if anybody goes to any of these platforms, they go there and they see, man, this guy's all over the place. So where they know your IP address. If they see that you watched a YouTube video and then you go into one of these other platforms, now it becomes a brand play and a search play. It's kind of a simultaneous approach.
Yeah. I really like that. Because your blog is really just on your website, right? Yeah, you can share it in all these other different places, but when you have a video, you can cut up pieces like, exactly like this video, we're going to cut up little segments of it and we'll send it to you after the show. But, you can put this in all of these other different places. And like you said, you can be omnipresent with it and people see you in multiple places. So I think that's a really, really good takeaway for, just another reason why we need to be, taking what we have already and repurposing it into video.
Now, let me give you an idea, because I worked with a client right now, an estate planning lawyer, and this is what he did. Working with somebody like yourself, where he's got great blog writing and all that good stuff, he would then take those blogs with videos that did well. He would turn around and he has a monthly newsletter that mm-hmm. he uses to nurture his current clients. But that newsletter would have the video, because it's an email newsletter, front and center. And what happens is that video gets shared amongst his wealthy clients with other wealthy people. And what happens is they'll call in referencing the video their buddy sent with them about living trust mistakes that'll cost you millions, right? And so now he's getting calls from people who he said he didn't know was a referral, only because a current client shared it with some other guy at a barbecue or something. And the next thing you know, they're becoming a client that signs up. So there's so many other places where you can leverage that video content, not just on YouTube.
Yeah, you also bring up a really good point. Why are we creating this content? People think it's all for the prospects, right? But it's
Right.
not. It's actually
Sure.
about building referrals, right?
Sure.
Not
100%.
only are we
Yes.
answering the questions people are asking, but we're also building content so that people are able to trust that when they refer us to somebody else, that we're actually going to be able to take care of them and that we know our stuff,
That's
right?
right.
And I feel like that's lost a lot when people think about their approach to creating content. So that was a great point. So I always want people to have something that they can take away, right, when they listen to our show. So creating a video, right? We talked about going and doing a video from a blog. How about, like, how long should it be around? And are there specific, we've talked a lot before about titles and thumbnails,
Yeah.
right? How important are those things like thumbnails and titles when they're creating the content? How much time should they be putting into that versus thinking about what they're going to say? And what do you think are some good YouTube titles that would absolutely crush it for an estate planning attorney?
Yeah. So, I mean, some examples of this, we talk about things like, attorneys would generally say things like living trust strategies in California, or like most attorneys will put out content that's very academic sounding or
Mm-hmm.
very like law review article sounding. And that kind of, then they look at it and they go, man, I wonder why nobody's watching this video. But really, you have to put yourself, the real rule for all social media and YouTube is, what does the viewer want? And do I create curiosity? So there's kind of your title and thumbnails. The rules are this. Number one, I got to create curiosity with my title and thumbnail. I have to have clarity. Like, you don't want to get too tricky. You don't want to try to be like, super witty here. And there's no hide the ball. You've got to literally write this for like an eighth grader. Right. And so, because not all the people are going to understand all of your legalese and all the stuff that you're going to throw out there, they just don't
Right.
know. And they're not going to be entertained by it, because here's the key. It's not just education, it's edutainment. So it's educational and entertaining. And if you make it come across as too educational, you'll lose a big swath of people who would be interested in what you do. Okay. So an example of that is I did I have a video where I'm holding this bucket. It says living trust. And then it says lawyer, assets you should never put in a living trust. And I'm pointing at this bucket. And the
Mm-hmm.
bucket is the living trust. And then my face, I'm kind of doing like this. I'm like, you don't want to do this, right? And I'm pointing over at it. Very simple. Because with a thumbnail, there's something called the rule of three. You don't want more than three things to focus on a thumbnail. If it becomes too busy, too complicated, people will just, any confusion leads to not clicking, right? I'm just not going to click on it. So the general rule is what we call the rule of three. Don't have more than three things to focus on. Usually it's wording somewhere on the thumbnail. It's an object of some sort. It may be a person
Mm-hmm.
or something along those lines, kind of like the ones that many people use. Another good example, I was looking up here, a title, the trust mistakes that could cost you millions. And one of the things I say in the thumbnail is I've got this kind of cringe look on my face and I say, a trust is enough, right? And I'm like this. And there's a puzzle pieces that don't add up. The puzzle pieces don't fit. Three things to focus on. These videos got thousands of views. And the point of it is it's colorful too. Your thumbnail has to be colorful. If you don't have color in your thumbnail, think about this. So many attorneys wear a black suit. They just have white wording and some dark background. Well, you might as well be in it. That's like a funeral home thumbnail, right? It's like no one will click on it. It blends in into the background. If you have a very colorful looking thumbnail from somewhere else, people are going to click on that. It looks more lively, more a reason to click. So when we talk about good thumbnails and titles, and this might, and I don't want to go too over anybody's head on these things, but this is important. Think about your thumbnail as putting the viewer in the action. So let's say the video is about making a trust mistake. Like maybe you drafted your trust wrong.
Oh,
Well,
this is great.
in the thumbnail, what I'd want to look like is me holding a document that says living trust, and maybe some blurred out wording, because you can't tell what the phrase is, but it's blurred out wording, and I'm pointing saying, remove this now, right? And so remove what now? I can't see it. Well, then I look down at the title, and the title is supposed to alleviate the pain I caused, the fear and pain I caused in the thumbnail by saying, in this video, I'm basically going to give you a payoff of what the clause is and what you should replace it with, right? And so you want to think of this as tension and curiosity, promise to deliver in the title, right?
Wow.
Those two things come together. What most people do is they put a thumbnail together and go, ooh, I think that looks awesome. And then they set it down. Then they go sit down and they go, now let's put together a title. And then it just comes together as a messy, nasty, just doesn't do anything, right? So you can't consider those in separation. You have to literally tie them together. You have to make sure one complements the other. So I tell people there are some attorneys out there that I've seen their videos, amazing content. Like they go super in depth, but they have like 4 views because their titles and thumbnails are terrible. It doesn't matter how good your content is if you never earn the click.
Wow. Yes. Okay. So that was awesome. When you're sharing about the titles and the thumbnails, what I use when we're talking about blogging is the clickable mindset, right? So you've talked and expanded upon this clickable mindset as it relates to YouTube specifically. When we're referencing a blog and we think about that title and how it goes with the photo, and really, from a blog standpoint, we want this to be as simple as possible, right? It intrigues them. It makes them want to click on it. And I think it's really important for our listeners to understand that this difference when we're going and doing it for YouTube versus doing it for, a blog on our website, a YouTube thumbnail is going to be, rule of thirds, right? And it's going to, arguably have more thought put into it and more time put into it, so that you're getting people that are seeing that title and that thumbnail. So I'm also hearing that the marketing aspect of it, right? Thinking of the right title and getting the right thumbnail for that video, maybe more heavy on getting your foot in the door than it would be for a blog.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you how it ties together. You asked this question earlier. You're like, how much more time should you spend on it? Most people throw together a video and then they think of the thumbnail and title as the last thing. But in reality, what the really great creators do is they start with a great title and thumbnail, always. And then what you do is this: after you've started with a great title and thumbnail, the next most important thing you do is the hook in the video. Because at the very beginning, if you don't grab people's attention in the very beginning, then they're going to think they've either been clickbaited, or you want to make sure that the hook provides the necessary curiosity and promise of a payoff that you created in the thumbnail and title. And so what I like to do is do thumbnail title first. Once I've kind of got a good idea of what that is, then I craft my hook around that. And I have a very specific strategy for creating a good hook as well. And then the next piece that you want to cover is the call to action at the end, because the middle is kind of where lawyers get to be the expert, right? And there is strategies for that. We can talk about ways to do it. You can use listicles, you can use transitions to help the scripting on it. But the very end, you want to also, you earn all these people's trust, and what do you do with it, right? You've got to make sure you have a call to action that leads somewhere. And for a brand new YouTube channels, that should lead to the next video they need to watch. Because if you want to build trust, it's not about you get to hear me say one thing for 10 minutes and then you should hire me. For a lot of times it's, okay, wow, that was really good, but I just shared this with you. What if this happens? Check out this next video. And now I'm like, okay, I got to go down the rabbit hole. And this strategy of having what we call an end screen strategy at the very end, that end screen strategy is, I now have the average viewer on my channel watches 3.8 videos. Okay. Now my videos are 15 to 25 minutes long. So you're talking about somebody spending an hour with me when they come onto my channel.
Right.
That's immense trust. If I did not guide them to the next video, they would get to the end of the journey and be like, okay, guess I'll see him next time. But if I give them a place to go and I tie in what they just learned here to the next thing they must learn, I have people clicking it. I can have click-through rates in the 15 to 20% range where people go to the next video.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So this is essentially a backlinking strategy on YouTube.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, it is. And it's creating a funnel strategy where essentially as you come in, you want to funnel. My analogy is like the lazy river, where it's easy to get on a lazy river. It's hard to get off, right? Because you just keep floating past the exits, right? You just keep going. You just keep going. And so it's kind of a Netflix effect Where if you start watching Netflix, it's easy to just go from one episode to the next episode. And what we want to do is give them a reason to Netflix that into the next video that they watch.
Okay.
And
So that's one of the strategies that you teach, for
yes,
the people that the law firms that work with you. You
that's
teach them how
correct.
to do that Netflix effect. You teach them how to create those hooks at the beginning.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
There's so much
wow.
strategy involved in this. And I tell people you can work real hard or you can work smart. And when you work real hard and smart, you get over 500,000 subscribers and you just get a lot of great business that comes in the door.
Hey, real quick before we finish today's episode, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you already know that most estate planning attorneys don't have a marketing problem, they have a consistency problem. They get referrals for a while, then things slow down, then they try ads, then they stop, and the cycle repeats. What I do is I help estate planning law firm owners build predictable lead generation using blogging, search traffic, and conversion systems that keep working month after month. If you want help building that kind of marketing for your firm, go to predictableestateplanner.com and schedule a call with me. Now, let's finish the episode. Amazing. Tell me more about this hook Netflix effect strategy, right? I want to hear about, some pages that you've worked with, or maybe even just your pages where, you just saw things just kind of take off, right? Like how many videos when you're doing both the hook and the end screen strategy, did it take, or does it take typically, specific to practice areas for a YouTube channel to take off?
Yeah. So I will say this. The first part is you've got to, one of the things I also teach is to read YouTube Studio's analytics. It'll tell you where you're failing and where you're winning. And so one of the biggest areas where I learned is I went in and I saw what we call the average view duration and average percentage viewed. So it'll show you a retention graph. Literally, YouTube will show you where when people watch your video, you'll see drops. Most attorneys, when I work with them and I initially look at their channel, it's what I call the hockey stick effect, which the video starts and it goes, right? Which means people drop off in the first 10 seconds. They're like, oh, I'm out. That's it. Not watching this. And that, what does that do? You could have a great title and thumbnail, but if no one watches your video, that sends a signal to YouTube, not any good. This is not good content. And you will still limit your reach of what you're able to do there. So the goal is my hook formula is a 3-step hook script formula. What I do is I say, sentence number one come out of your mouth. It's got to create curiosity. So you got to pique someone's curiosity. Let's say you're driving down as an example of what I've done. Let's say you're driving down the road, maybe driving 5 miles over the speed limit. When all of a sudden you see red and blue lights behind you, a cop walks up to your window. And just when you think he's done giving you a ticket, he leans in and says, I smell alcohol, right? Now, what does that do? First of all, people can imagine a traffic stop. They can imagine that's where they're at. They can also know they would have no idea what to say. Like, I have no idea what to tell this officer if this guy says I smell alcohol. And then I'll say, in the next few minutes, I'm Jeff Hampton, the people's lawyer. And in the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the exact words to say, the exact script you can use if an officer tries to bait you into I smell alcohol, and I'll show you how the law is on your side. And then I jump straight into it. So the 3 steps are: number 1, curiosity. Number 2, set the stakes. You got to set the stakes. Like the trust mistake. No one cares about a trust mistake unless you find out it's going to cost you millions for your legacy and your family. Right. And then the third thing you got to do is give them a promise to a payoff. If you stick around on this video, I'm going to give you X, Y, and Z so that foreshadowing at the end of this video, this is what you're going to be walking out the door with. You now feel empowered. You feel like I now have a reason to stick around. So I'm going to stick around to this into this video. Most people just get started and what do? Oh, it's Hampton Law. Welcome. Subscribe. Like my channel. Well, nobody even knows what you said yet. So you have to actually get into the promise of what you're going to give. Then don't mess around. Start delivering the content right then and there.
Wow.
So,
Jeff, I hear you actually living out what you're saying about just giving that value away. Like, and I know our listeners are appreciating. You just broke down exactly how to do these hooks. This thing about promise to payoff. Holy cow. Right? Game changer, right? That's going to eliminate that hockey stick that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Small increases in retention. Literally, I've taken people that were at like 12, 15% viewed, taken them to even 30. That's the difference between like 100 views and 15, 20,000 views. Right? So you're talking about small tweaks lead to huge view peaks. You get way more reach for what you're trying to do when you take that approach.
Nice. Okay. So,
So
I really like to encourage our estate planning attorney lawyers to, think outside the box, try other areas, other ways to market themselves. For the estate planning attorneys out there that are saying, I'm just not really comfortable on camera.
yeah.
Jeff, what would you say to them?
Well, the first thing I would say is go to Hampton Law, watch my oldest videos. They were awful. Okay. Now, and some people say, Jeff, why do you still leave your old videos up there? Because I still get clients signing up from them all the time. So here's the key. You don't have to look like a professional broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be polished and perfect. But what you do want to bring is authenticity. You want to bring your natural personality. You want to be authentic with what you say and what you do. And I've worked with an attorney from New York, very like Bronx, New York area, right? Very, very kind of rough around the edges. I told him, I said, man, lean in on it. Just that's who you are. Don't hold back on those things. And people in his area that would hire him love him, right? And even though you might compare him to someone else, you might say, well, he's not as refined as this other guy. Well, for what he's doing and who he's attracting as his ideal client profile, it doesn't matter. So what I tell people to do, the hardest thing about YouTube is committing to actually recording and posting it. Once you actually get in the act of recording it and posting it, there's no better time to be terrible at YouTube than at the very beginning. Because at the very beginning, no one's watching you anyway, right? So you get that, sit down first and focus on search-based videos for practice areas. Sit down and record and don't become like a statue on it. Treat it like a consultation. I bet every attorney listening to this right now has had literally thousands of consultations. You just look at the camera, pretend it's your ideal client. I used to have one for my asset protection firm. My ideal client, I named her Wealthy Wendy. And Wealthy Wendy was who's behind that camera, not the camera. And I would talk to the camera just like I would Wealthy Wendy. And as a result of that, I was able to reach and speak the pain points and concerns that I was getting, just like I would in a consultation when I would win over someone to sign up with us. You take that approach, and I'll tell you, you'll get more and more comfortable, and you'll get better and better as you do it.
I love that you bring up that even your old videos are still converting for you.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the different, marketing strategies that we can use, I really like that, we can create a blog post that, was 3 years ago, and it can be the 5th most popular blog on our website still, right? An old video from a long time ago that you didn't think was good still might convert. So just leave it out there, right? It's constantly working for you, and it's doing it, evergreen, right? It's passive. You don't have to keep recreating the wheel. You just keep creating content, and when things blow up, they blow up, right? And it's because of the process that they're following, right?
So what you just said is key. Become obsessed with the process and not the immediate term results. If you become obsessed with the process, you put out your first 30 to 50 videos, you will get calls. You will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But many people give up before they get to that 30 to 50 videos. I mean, I made a promise to myself when I realized the potential of YouTube is I said, I'm going to put out 75 videos before I ever think about not doing this anymore. And so my goal was, let's get to 75. And before I ever got to 75, I was getting calls, lots of calls and new client signups. So that's where I try to tell people to commit to that process. And that's part of what actually led to me working in our business at YouTube Rainmakers is attorneys that are busy or ended up saying, man, I got to have help on how to start because I don't even know what to do. And when people commit to that, though, that's when they get those results.
Okay, so that's a really good segue. So, if you were an estate planning attorney today and have never posted a single video, what would you tell them to do in the first 30 days? And also, Jeff, how can people reach you?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is, honestly, the fastest way to generate more leads and to more client signups is to get those top 5 to 10 pages on your website. Find out where you're getting lots of traffic. Create YouTube videos that complement those and embed them above the fold on your website. If you do that, you will get more conversions. You're going to capture more. I always tell people, if you don't do that, it's like leads come through and you have a hole in your bucket. Stuff just goes through and you don't actually capture what you could. The second thing you do is do that 80-20 analysis that I talked about. Where you're making most of your money. And if you need to create more content about trusts, about wills, about, you name it, any other estate planning area that right now is kind of your bread and butter. And then you want to optimize those videos like you would for search on a blog page. Just like you'd want to be found in search on those, you'd want to do the exact same thing with that YouTube video. And then when you do it, don't worry about being perfect. Worry about being real and authentic, and don't hold back your content. That's what I would do the first. Don't hold back your secrets. I would do that the first 30 days and get out there and do it. You'll feel better, and you'll also get some references on your intake team. When people call in, have your intake team ask this question. Thank you for calling in today, sir. What was the specific thing that led you to call in today? Because attribution's hard now. It's kind of contribution, because people might watch your YouTube video, go to Google Business Places. They might go to look for your reviews, and they may call from a different place. But when they mention, usually when it's a video, they'll mention the video because it sticks in their mind. It really grabbed a hold of their attention. You'll start to see that kind of payoff happen. If you'll just do that in your first 30 days, you'll start to see results.
Huge, huge. So, okay. So Jeff, how can people reach you?
Yes. So YouTubeRainmakers.com is the website. You can also reach out to me personally on LinkedIn, Jeff Hampton. You'll see me there. YouTube Rainmakers on that account, that page, and ask me questions. Send me a direct message. I'm happy to respond. And obviously there's multiple ways to go down this journey and learn. And there's free things that I give out to people too, to help them start their process. So if you do have those questions, I'm happy to talk.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to share with our listeners today?
I just want to encourage lawyers. I'm a lawyer. So I want to encourage you to think more outside the box and not just follow the herd with what everybody else is doing. AI is about to fundamentally transform the legal industry, and no one's seeing, just people do not see this coming. They have no idea what they're about to be hit with. And so when I tell people, don't just do what everyone else is doing, keep your head, you got to always be learning, and don't always just be learning what you're doing on the legal side, be learning what works out there in business. That by itself right away will distinguish you from everyone else, and you can be more successful just by that. That's what I want to challenge people. It's a mindset. We don't learn this stuff in law school. You've got to make sure you distinguish and differentiate yourself by also learning those other areas of business.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you want to learn the process, how you can get consistent with making effective YouTube content, reach out to Jeff Hampton and YouTube Rainmakers. That's a good place for us to wrap things up. Once again, I am Heath Ross, your host of Profit with Estate Planning, and I've just interviewed Jeff Hampton of YouTube Rainmakers, and we will see you next time. Before you go, next episode, I'm talking with Rondi Lambeth, who helps business owners keep more of their hard-earned money through smart tax planning and business strategy. We'll cover the costly mistakes most attorneys make, the strategies affluent business owners use to pay less in taxes, and how to help keep more of what you earn. If you've ever looked at your tax bill and thought, there has to be a better way, you're not going to want to miss it.